Well, as soon as we saw what was a pretty small rebellion from Conservative MPs against the Windsor framework, what Rishi Sunak agreed with the EU, I thought that sent a signal to the government that basically Tory MPs weren't really looking to rebel, that the government didn't really have to worry and could go ahead with U-turns without much of a fuss from most or the overwhelming majority of Tory MPs. And on this plan to ditch EU rules, to sunset them by the end of this year, to seize Brexit competitive advantage properly, that now seems to have fallen by the wayside. And fears, of course, that unelected officials, civil servants, determined to keep the UK as closely aligned to the EU as possible, with a view, of course, to a potential Labour-Lib Dem coalition moving the UK towards the EU to eventually rejoining completely. So instead of delivering what had been pledged, the government now scrapping the plan to replace all EU laws by the end of this year, by the end of 2023. In fact, we now find out that it's going to only be around 600, and fair to say the likes of Jacob Rees-Mogg not happy at all, saying there regrettably the Prime Minister has shredded his own promise rather than EU laws, and that Rishi Sunak said one thing yet he's doing another. His words and his deeds are not matching. And you see their confirmation, and this was announced by Kemi Badenoch, that the sunset clause has now gone, that only around 600 regulations will be scrapped by the end of the year. And indeed, in that statement, it makes clear that the government is tabling an amendment for the Lords report, which will replace the current sunset in the bill with a list of retained EU laws that they intend to revoke under the bill at the end of 2023. Now, the likes of Jacob Rees-Mogg, the likes of Mark Francois were some of the Tory MPs that actually had the bottle to vote against what Rishi Sunak agreed with the EU. Both have been critical of this U-turn. And here's Mark Francois confronting Kemi Badenoch in Parliament and what she had to say in response. Watch this and let me know your thoughts in the comments below, guys.
On the 18th of January this year, it passed third reading with a government majority of 59, and again, not a single Tory MP voted against it. So it had managed to unify the Conservative Parliamentary Party on an admittedly controversial issue. It left this House without a single Tory MP opposing it. Why then, when it's gone to the other place, the House of Lords, has the government performed a massive climb down on its own bill, despite having such strong support from its own backbenches? Secretary of State, what on earth are you playing at?
Mr. Speaker, I've already explained the reasons why we have changed the approach, and I'm very, very happy to repeat them for my honourable friend. He should know that I'm not somebody who gets pushed around lightly. The fact is, I went in and looked at the detail, and I decided that this was the best way to deliver it. This was not, and I will stress again, this was not the Prime Minister's decision. As a Secretary of State, I have to be responsible and look at what we can make sure is deliverable. This is the best way to get him what he wants. It may have been different from what was put on the floor of the House, but if he wants what I want, which is ending EU interpretive effects by the end of this year, ending the supremacy of EU law by the end of this year, I can tell him he is not in the room. He's very welcome to send me the list of things that he wants repealed, but this is the way to get it done.